I put in work, a lot of work. Got on my grind to make it work. I put in time to ease my mind. Now all the time I see dollar signs. I got the juice and barbecue. Yeah, I keep making moves, cause I know what to do, I put in work.
Welcome back to NetworkNChill. We are honored to have a phenomenal guest that's been in the making for a little while. We are excited to have Matt Langan from Stucco here today. Matt, super excited for the conversation today. Ricky and I have been a fan of yours for a while, and congrats on your past success with the Vote Awards and going through the class with Ricky Mason.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. I would love to give you the floor to kind of give you the opportunity to talk about yourself and your background a little bit, and then kind of the evolution of the ideal and what is Stucco.
Oh man, do we have enough time? So yeah, I mean, I've been involved in the entrepreneurial world for years. I went to school for business and entrepreneurship, graduated in 2010, which just feels like not that long ago. It's hard to believe that it's been such a long time since I graduated. But I've been involved in tech startups basically since I graduated. I knew that I wanted to be involved in entrepreneurship, having studied it. And so kind of quickly co-founded a company after I graduated and ran that for about 5 years. Had some success, not a tremendous amount, not as much as maybe we thought we might. Definitely learned a whole lot. And I eventually, to kind of speed things up, I eventually founded Stucco in 2015 and bootstrapped it for about 3 or 4 years, just working really hard on product and product market fit, understanding the customer, and closed on a little bit of money a couple of years ago, and going through the fundraising process again right now. So we've gotten to a place where we've got five full-time employees, about 15 part-time kind of contractors, and it's good to see us, continue to grow. So that is the fastest way that I can kind of give you some context on what I've been up to since I graduated.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, even kind of going through, like, can you, for those who don't know, like, can you just talk through the Stucco? What is the product and what the prime offering you kind of discovered through that product market fit? They're trying to give this a background and later footwork for a lot of the listeners today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So I think that Stucco is a lot like most startups, where what it started out as is very different than what it has become. Ricky probably knows what's up there for sure. Definitely seen both of us kind of grow and evolve as we've learned more about our businesses and ourselves and our team and the market. But Stucco I originally created Stucco in 2015 to solve a problem that my family was actually having. So my father's a home builder here in town, and he was, at that time, was in the process of transitioning the business to my brother, who's 10 years older. And when you would search for their business online, even though my dad had been building these beautiful homes for many years, most of my life, you wouldn't find them online. They're very kind of old school, very word of mouth, kind of flying under the radar. And so Stucco was originally just a platform to help showcase work that is being done by really talented home professionals. So it was like a portfolio site for creative home pros. That's what our original tagline was. And it was really similar to Howl's, to be totally honest. And I kind of knew it, but we sort of had this model where it was going to be invite only. So, one person who would get an invite from us, they'd kind of go through a vetting process, and then they would then have so many invites to extend to another home professional. And so we got a little bit of traction. Like we got people signed up, they were posting photos. It was a lot of fun to just kind of waste time on the website, but there really wasn't much of a business model behind it. It was just cool tech. It was one of those things where I just thought, if I build it, then like literally everybody would just show up and want to share it with their best buddy and their dog. And it just didn't happen. And
it was
really,
like Clubhouse there. And then,
yeah.
The invites and everything.
Yeah, it's like that was a reality check for me, because with my previous tech company, we had a tremendous amount of demand for it and people wanting it, but we had a really hard time developing the actual tech. And so I swore to myself I would never make that mistake ever again, where I could not actually develop what people wanted. And so at Stucco, we were really, really good at building the tech, because that's where we started. We were like, I just want to make sure that the product is incredible. And so by the time we rolled it out, we didn't have the demand. It was like I had solved what I was weak at the first time I had a shot with a startup, and then I forgot about what I was good at the first time, which was making sure that there was demand for it and a good business model. So very humbling to realize that even though the product was really good, there just wasn't a great business model there. The unit economics were terrible, and I was self-funding everything. And so I realized quickly, well, not so quickly, I guess, not quick enough. Certainly spent a lot of time and money developing the product before I realized it. But, in order to have a tech site hit kind of critical mass where you have enough users on it to where they're paying, a little bit of money or a little bit of attention or whatever, like you have to spend a ton of capital on building out that initial awareness. Like, you need to have millions of dollars in the bank in order to educate people that this even exists, so that you can have a critical mass on the platform to where then you can monetize to an extent where, if you have 50 million, 100 million people on it paying, $1 a day or whatever, like, or $1 a year or month or whatever, like then the business model starts to make sense. But when you're bootstrapping a company and the customers aren't paying you much, you just don't have enough capital to blanket the market with this awareness that the company needs in order to start achieving that critical mass to where the unit economics make sense. So basically I learned that I would either need to raise a huge amount of money to make that business model work, or I'd have to really change the business model to where the unit economics would be much more appealing, considering the fact that we didn't have millions of dollars to run in advertising. So that shifted us into this phase of customer discovery and just talking to as many home professionals as we possibly could to figure out where there might be product market fit, what could we build to actually make the business model work. And something called e-design, or like online interior design, was coming into its own. And this idea that you could find, hire, and work with interior designers remotely, so they wouldn't have to visit your home. And there was an appetite from like an interior designer perspective to get more projects, and they also are fairly tech savvy within kind of the home profession ecosystem. They're some of the most tech savvy types of professionals, whereas home builders, aren't quite as tech savvy. So we decided to pivot. This was like 2017, to be an online interior design platform where you could hire and work with interior designers to have one or multiple spaces in your home professionally designed. And so we quickly got all these designers on board. So we really solved the problem of like the supply side of the two-sided marketplace, getting a lot of designers on board. And then we started running some ads and marketing campaigns to get homeowner interest. And I then realized that the business model was still quite broken because it would cost me about the same that I would make on acquiring a customer. So, if we were charging $500 to design a space, this is just an example. And my margin after paying out the designer was like, $150 or like $150. It would cost me about $150 to acquire the customer. And so I'm not profitable, right? Like the business model is broken. And so I was still sort of in that same area of, in my mind, like this, I either need to go out and raise a lot of money and just be okay with acquiring a customer without having made money and kind of figure it out later, figure out that monetization plan later, or, acquire enough customers to where I can acquire a bunch at cost and then rely on them reaching out to their family and friends and tell them, basically just depend on word of mouth as a result of kind of the critical mass acquiring of the customer. Or I'd have to change the business model again. And so still kind of fighting it, the business model. And so at that same time, there was this woman who had read an article about what we were doing, designing spaces for homeowners. And she had a marketing role in a real estate brokerage here in town. And she had a property in a high rise in downtown Louisville. You know that big glass building, the one near Slugger Field? It's like kind of like green glass.
Beautiful.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Beautiful spot. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful building. And she had a listing in that building. And she had reached out. She was like, I just read this article about what you guys are doing for homeowners, and I've got this listing in this high rise. It's going to be an absolute disaster for me to physically stage it. Getting everything up and down those stairs and in the elevators or whatever. And so she was like, could you possibly use your same like technology and designers to virtually stage my photographs? And I was like, absolutely, we could do that. Let's try this. And we did it for her, and she her jaw hit the floor after we produced the virtually staged photos, and the light bulb went off in my mind that wow, not only is this really valuable, but she has a lot of listings every single year that could benefit from this. And it's much easier for me to be able to, target a real estate brokerage than it is for me to identify a homeowner who is highly motivated to design a room in their home via online interior design. So we shifted the company to primarily be a virtual staging platform as a result of that interaction and her then wanting to share it with all of her real estate professional friends. So that was 2019. We rolled out virtual staging for the first time. And the beauty of that is by servicing the real estate professionals with virtual staging, we're able to then get stucco in front of homeowners at the perfect moment in time for them to learn about our online interior design service as well, because they're moving into and out of homes, and the real estate professionals are able to, recommend that same platform, Stucco, to help them with their, their design decisions once they actually move into the property after they buy it. So our services kind of complement each other. They sort of feed each other, which is really great. And what I'm really excited about is we just are in the process of rolling out, or have rolled out, we're in beta, the ability to help retailers, so home goods retailers, to where when you see our virtually staged photos of all these properties, we stage, properties all across the United States every single day. They're getting a ton of organic reach. And so we are now, about 15% of the photos we produce have product information tied to them. So when you see those photos of properties that are being listed for sale, you can actually shop from those photos. If you're wondering, what sofa is in that virtually staged photo, you can just, with a single click, click over to Wayfair or click over to that retailer and purchase that item. So you can not only be shopping for properties, but shop from properties. And that's a huge opportunity for home goods retailers. I mean, it's an obvious add-on value for homeowners who want to turn that inspiration into reality, but it's a huge, huge opportunity for home goods retailers, because they're now able to show their items to homeowners at the perfect moment in time and in the most personalized manner, which is in real properties that are being purchased. So really excited about that, which is kind of our next frontier as a company.
Matt, this is really insightful, Matt.
Yeah.
I think like you're talking about that growth through just iteration and pivoting and finding and understanding your customer. Going from that stage where really understanding the unlock through these home buyers, right? Where you double down on that area. It sounds like over the last couple of years as well, you've been exploring other areas of growth and continue to grow the company. And you're talking about this area in retail, which sounds really intriguing, and like matching this virtual staging with like buying in e-commerce online, which is inevitably the future. More of this purchases happening via e-commerce. What were some of those, like the learning points or the tipping points toward that time that kind of led you to e-commerce? Because I feel like it's so important as companies find some initial product market fit, but you continue to grow and find other opportunities. What was that, that product cycle within Stucco that kind of led you to e-commerce? I mean, not e-commerce, but really the retail side.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are huge believers in opening up all lines of communication at Stucco. So like talking to our customers every single day, whether that's live chat, phone numbers, emails. Sometimes it results in some overwhelm on the receiving end because we get a lot of inbound, but it's really valuable because it allows us to have such an keen awareness of like what our customers want and what challenges they're having with what we built, and then also like what they want us to build. So we were just getting quite a few questions of like, where did that sofa come from? Helping me understand like where to go buy these items that look similar to this sofa, even if it's not the exact sofa. So just through conversations, honestly, and just kind of recognizing those patterns of people asking for similar things without being prompted to ask for them by us. So we have this idea, we call it an idea board at Stucco. It's just a Trello board. And everybody owns it at Stucco. So like I'm not the owner of it. Every single person at Stucco who's an employee is able to access it and contribute to it. And whenever they have an idea themselves, or whenever they hear of an idea or a problem from a customer or lead, they document that idea on the idea board. And then we review it every Monday morning on our team meeting, where anybody who's added an idea can present it to the team and even explore like their proposed solution to how we might solve that problem. And then we're just always like adjusting the prioritization of those ideas to figure out like, what's the expected cost to actually produce it? What's the likelihood that it'll actually be well received, and like what kind of value can that create for the customer and also for the business. And that those sort of questions then sort of dictate the priority that then results in that idea becoming a reality. So it is, the retail is an example of how a customer or customers repeatedly expressed a desire for it, and then we sort of documented that idea and then just kept maturing it until we actually developed it. So, and pretty much everything that we come out with is a result of a very similar process than that.
Yeah, I want to say first off, congrats on launching the retail side. I know during the Boat Awards, that's something that you were like talking about and ideating on, and like now here we are, 2 years later, it's launched, and it's actually working. I mean, what's some of it sounds like clients and customers that we mentioned and talked about, during those times. So, man, I want to first say congrats on just execution and carrying out that plan, because that's awesome. And then,
Thanks.
keeping those like lines of communication open and like really communicating with your customer and just listening. I think like that's the story of how you survive, when you're, trying to build that startup. It sounds like, early on you were always had your ear to the streets, I'm going to say, listening for that pivot, basically. Where's the pivot at? And, it's something to successfully navigate, those pivots time and time again, from, the gallery to now we're a virtual staging for retail, and like helping on even going back to your original, business. I was trying to stage for homeowners, and now we had to go through realtors, but now we're back, with these homeowners. So it's like keeping that vision alive and like you said, knowing when to pivot, man. It's so key to success of any startup. Any business. I don't care if you've locked in an industry for the last 10 years. If you're not staying abreast or innovative, then somebody's going to catch you and you're gonna die eventually if you're not keeping your ear to the streets per se. So totally. I just want to say, man, congrats on that, and like awesome way to use that vision to continue to pivot into those proper areas. Now, I know that you have like a long history, kind of like you said, in like real estate, just from like your parents, being involved, and then having the company. How do you feel like, building that tech, and you talked about the brand awareness kind of like first, like I'm a techie, so putting the tech like first is always my first thing. I'm like, I can build that. Like, then we can test it. Like, just let me build it really quick. How do you think that you would have changed your journey into building stucco if you looking at it now, like you built all that cool tech and you have awesome technology like now, but what are some things you would have done differently or changed over that journey?
It's a great question. Actually, I was talking to a fellow entrepreneur earlier this week about like what would I have changed. And she was talking about her own company, and she's had a lot of success. And she was like, what would I have changed? It's so difficult to know if, I don't know. It's like, that's a slippery slope. I think because it took me such a long time to figure it out, I probably learned the lesson and it stuck with me. Like, I don't think I probably would have learned if I had made a change earlier, I don't know if I would have respected that change as much if I hadn't spent such a long time kind of waiting in the pain of making some mistakes early. So I would say that, ideally we would have focused more on unit economics. I would have focused more on like, what's a customer going to pay? How much is it going to cost me to acquire them? And try to get them to pay earlier. And I think that we spent a long time working on the product in the beginning, and just thought that based on a few conversations that that was a strong enough indicator that once we released the technology that money would start flowing in. And unfortunately, that wasn't the experience that we had. And I think that some people probably do have that experience, but it hasn't been mine. Anytime that I come up with my own idea in a vacuum, it pretty much never works. And so the best ideas that we've released, it's because somebody's been like, can I pay you for, and then they fill in the blank for us. And then we're like, sure. And then we go develop it to meet that need. So I think that going back, like had I done it a little bit differently, I probably would have tried to like monetize things a little bit earlier and make sure that like those unit economics are much more appealing. Yeah, I don't know that I would have changed too much else, because it's ended up serving us, by kind of having to be slow build, and learning taking some time to learn those lessons. I think it's given us a lot more perspective today about like, what is our bread and butter and what's not, and what to double down on, and maybe what to kind of shy away from.
Yeah, man. I think you're talking through the piece of just the continued communication loop and having that feedback from your customers, and like you said, slowly iterating, moving to innovation is so key and critical. During that time as well, I think, you said you bootstrapped, right? And so I guess, would you change the bootstrapping path to raising? How did you determine the right time to raise capital? And what were some of the insights early on for many companies looking through that path of bootstrapping, raising capital? When's the right time? It's so many different key things outside of just like that customer base you're thinking about. How did you determine when to go from bootstrapping to raise capital?
Another great question. So I bootstrapped until I felt like I knew when I took outside money in that money would be well invested. So I define that by like, okay, we've got something worth investing in. Like if I bring in $1, I feel like I can get more than $1 back. And so to me, that's when you have product market fit. It's like, okay, if I run this ad and I'm spending $1 to acquire a customer, then I have enough data to suggest that like enough of those people are going to pay me for it, and they're going to spend more than $1. And, it was like that clarity of finances. And then also like, I need this money to develop more tech so that I can charge more, or we've got like internal operational bottlenecks that we need to solve, which I don't have enough cash to safely, do that right now. So I need some outside financing so that I can like tighten up my operations so that we can fulfill more demand as we grow down the road. So to me, it's just like trying to be a good steward of an investor's dollars. That's when I felt like when I had enough confidence in asking for the money, that's probably when it was time to go raise money. Yeah, I mean, but I've been a bootstrapper for a long, like even before Stucco, I bootstrapped the other company. And so I also think it's important for me to say that bootstrapping was my comfort zone. And so raising money was uncomfortable for me to shift gears and do that. So I think that was probably at play a little bit too of why it took me so long to actually go through that process, because it was new to me, and I didn't know what that might introduce. Like I had this fear of like, once I brought in investors, that now I've not only not become not only do I have one boss, I maybe have 10, and so it was like, the reason I went into entrepreneurship is so that I could have some increased freedoms, and like be able to identify a problem and create a solution for it, and just kind of have that creative freedom was one of the reasons why entrepreneurship really appeals to me. I think that when I thought about raising money, I was like, oh gosh, like now I'm possibly bringing all these people in, and therefore they might inhibit that. That was a false fear. And maybe that's not always a false fear, but in my experience, that was a false fear. The investors have been extremely trusting. Raising money has opened up a tremendous amount of doors for us. It's allowed us to build, a much better team, a much better product. So I think that that's one reason why I probably delayed longer. It's just because it was outside my comfort zone. But I found that once I kind of got out of my comfort zone, and this is probably consistent with a lot of things in life, it's like typically what you're scared of is not real. And in my experience with fundraising, some of those fears that I had have not been realized. That's why now we're doing another round, right? So I get excited about, what fundraising can unlock now, whereas maybe I was a little bit worried about what it might be able to unlock.
Yeah, I think sometimes when I started thinking about fundraising initially, I thought about this as like a family business. Like, this is going to be my family forever. Like, it'll be $1 billion business and we'll keep it in the family. But when I started to think, like, hold on, like, if I want to, exit, or maybe I don't want to be the CEO forever, then it changed my mindset on how I felt about like bringing in and raising capital. I'm like, well, yeah, that's the whole goal is to get those outcomes. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on how scary it can be to like get in bed with someone else that you don't with your baby. So that's a really, now I want to say how you waited later to raise capital, and like how has that been just for you so far? Like talking to folks from a Kentucky startup standpoint. I know when I talk to folks about a metaverse and I'm in Kentucky building it, it's kind of a tough conversation. I mean, not a tough conversation. They love the product, but it's tough to believe that we're going to grow a metaverse to $1 billion business, out of Kentucky. So what have your conversations been with, with investors, in Kentucky and then outside of Kentucky?
Yeah, I think that one thing that we benefit from is like our product is so easy to explain what it is and how it works, because it's so visual. And so I think we're really lucky in that way. So when I explain like what it is we produce and like it is very easy to communicate that. And so therefore, I think that my conversations with investors have been a little bit easier. So overall, and like they've seen virtually staged photos when they've looked at properties before. And so there's like some baseline familiarity there. So it's not quite as much of a leap of faith, I don't think, for them to like just understand the opportunity. So overall, I think it's been really good. I think that, not everybody that I've talked to has invested in Stucco, so it's not like everything's been perfect. There has been a little bit of pushback just because, like looking back on why there's been pushback, I think it's because there was some concern about there being some competition out there. And so trying to decipher like where our unique differentiator is at some point presented some friction. But I'm not concerned about that at all because of how robust like our tech is behind the scenes. So it's very easy for somebody to like spin up a landing page and be like, hey, I can virtually stage a photo for you, but try to fulfill, 100 orders a day. It's going to get real messy real fast. So like, I'm not really concerned about some of our competitive disadvantages there. But I think to a investor who's looking at a deck for the first time, when they do a Google search, they might be like, oh, this is chummy water. And so you kind of have to, hopefully they'll just give you enough time to explore that topic a little bit more so that they can kind of see there's just some light shed on that. So yeah, I mean, overall it's been really good. But to go back, Ricky, to what you said earlier about like the raising money and how that can be scary. Last week I was thinking about this quote, and it was like, you have to let go to grow. And I thought that was really relevant to raising money, but it's also relevant to so many things in life. That it's like when you make a change, like whether you're getting married or whether you're letting a kid go off to college, or like whether you're delegating a task, or like whether you're raising money. It's like the only way to like get to that new chapter is you have to like trust. You have to kind of let go of what kind of the way that you've been operating in the past. And so, yeah, I think that fundraising is just the same way. And it's difficult for someone like yourself or for me that like started a company and they're very product driven, and it's like they start identifying with the product and with kind of what they do on a daily basis. It's very difficult to like recognize when you have to like let go of that old operating system and then like delegate it, trust that it'll be done to the way that you want it to be done. But you have to, I mean, you just have to do that to get to, you know, ultimately where you're trying to be, assuming that you're trying to, you know, grow the company beyond yourself. You know, if you want to be a solopreneur, then that's fine. But yeah, so it's just kind of like a discomfort that I think that we just have to get used to. And it's definitely something that I'm having to learn.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I sound like I heard an IP play in there with the software kind of on the back end there. I mean, thinking about it, like, yeah, you're doing the virtual staging, but if other companies could use your software to kind of speed up their process, then I think that, man, that's another easy play there. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. We actually just released a reseller's offer for real estate photographers and physical home stagers. So, you know, when they go, like a photographer, they go in and take all the photographs. It's like a logical add-on service to virtually stage those photos for a realtor. And it actually saves the realtor some hassle from having to place the order him or herself on our platform after the photos get staged. If that photographer just goes ahead, takes the photos and stages them. You know, a photographer or home stager can sign up as a reseller on Stucco, and they can then provide virtual staging services as an add-on to the services they're already providing, and then Stucco fulfills those like in a white labeled fashion behind the scenes for them. And again, that wasn't my idea. I was just doing some number crunching, and our two highest paying customers at Stucco are real estate photographers. And I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Just, you know, paying attention to actions instead of words there on the purchasing front. And so we crafted an offer for real estate photographers as a result.
That's critical, Matt.
The answers in the data.
I love hearing that story, that evolution of like just get the numbers and the data and understanding your customer cycle and being so in tune with your customers and willing to go out there and talk to them and get feedback and create new product lines and new revenue streams. I think at this stage, you know, as your growth, that's so critical for companies and hearing some of your processes internally. It allows us to see how things are progressing very quickly. One of the things you mentioned earlier is like letting go the grow and things that you've done that. Just hearing you talk a little bit about your Trello boards and everyone, the ideal boards and how everyone has a voice within Stucco, you know, taking that and letting go to grow. How have you really looked at hiring, and how have you effectively been able to hire and trust those people to let go of some of those tasks early on that you may probably was doing all those tasks? Now you probably have critical team members doing some of those tasks for you. How did you get comfortable with hiring and trusting those employees?
Yeah, all of our employees are remote, so trust is extremely vital. If we didn't have trust, then, you know, it would be challenging for sure. So our interview process was very thorough. Multiple rounds of interviews, lots of reference checks, personality assessments. And in some cases when I hire, I'll even hire them to do a task as a test, like a test task, and pay them for it. So it's not a total waste of their time, even if they don't end up getting the job. But like, because honestly, like just going through a project and simulating what that working relationship might be like is, in my opinion, more potent than looking at a piece of paper about, their written past experience or results. So basically, because of that thorough, and we've also had other teammates, like existing employees, also have conversations with applicants and to get their opinion on them too before we hire them. So that kind of upfront vetting process sort of de-risked things in a way that once I knew that they were a part of Stucco, I was more willing to really trust them. It's obviously more work up front, and it'll be a little bit more challenging for me to do that as we hire faster going forward. So we'll have to figure out how best to do that. I might need to, kind of delegate that process itself. But it did work out well in that I felt much more comfortable delegating because, we had gone through that interview process. We also, I'm a big believer in training. So we have like training modules. They're almost like online courses for each position in Stucco, where I'm just going through and like saying, all right, like if you're processing a virtual staging order, like here are all the steps, and then just like doing a little checklist stuff. I do that for each role so that basically once they join, they're able to hit the ground running. And then also when they're doing their job, they're also updating that documentation based on how their role kind of evolves, so that is like a living document in the event that they need, if they got sick or if, they left Stucco or whatever, they needed to step away, that like that knowledge wouldn't totally be lost and we could bring somebody else in to do a comparable job. So I think that me being able to document that information and then hand it off sort of de-risk things too, because I was like, hey, if you get tripped up, like just watch this, just like follow these steps type of thing. And then we also have daily stand-ups in the morning, and we have check-ins at the end of the day on a recurring basis, just 15 minutes. But I kind of find that as a good opportunity in the event that people get tripped up or, run into a roadblock or something, we're able to work through that before it becomes a big problem. So those like little snapshots, touch base on a recurring basis, has also kind of helped me know that, people aren't getting stuck and that, we're able to continue to make progress on it.
Yeah, I think one thing, keeping that hiring process tight, I read I think it was 2 weeks ago, that your first 10 hires create the culture of your company, from there, like as you grow. So making sure that those first 10 are, solid and are meeting those expectations, and you all are building like your vision, is critical. So yeah, man, I definitely think you gotta interview 3 times those first, 10, if that's going to be the culture that, is spread throughout your, company as you grow.
Completely agree with you. I actually, we didn't have core values or a vision statement for years at Stucco. And I actually went through that Awesome Inc. fellowship I think it was last year, and they were really big on that. And I was like, I don't know that we really need this. And I was so wrong. And like taking the time to sit down and put our vision together and like specify what our 5 core values were and make that a, not just something you do once and then forget about it, throw it up on an about page, but like make that a part of our culture. Like in that weekly meeting, we do that ideas exercise. We also always do a core values exercise where we remind ourselves the 5 core values in our vision, and then we open it up and be like, all right, who wants to share examples of how they practice one or more of our core values, or saw one of their colleagues practicing one of those core values in the past week? So it's just a chance for us to like basically be accountable for our core values, and also explain how we're practicing those. So yeah, like that's been really important. And also like I'd want to share those core values when I post the job too, because that will attract kind of who you want to attract and repel people that you don't want to come. So if they don't like drink that Kool-Aid, then it's probably best for them and you to know that right out of the gate than it is for them to kind of come inside and then learn about your core values and then be like, yeah, not really feeling it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I love that like piece of like your core values being like loud and everywhere, and making sure that everyone like buys into that, because that's the major key. It's do you believe this? Like, and
Yeah.
if we all believe the same thing, like we can make this happen, and we're going to make it happen no matter what, because as we know, we're probably going to have to pivot. But if we're focused on the core, values that we set, and we're meeting that mission that we set out on, it doesn't matter what we do to make it happen. We're all going to be willing to make this vision come true.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the core values and the vision, that's like what guides people when nobody's watching.
Yep.
Otherwise, like if you don't have those, and you're not only if you don't have them, but like if you don't practice them and remind everybody like that this isn't just talk, like this is something we really adhere to, then they're like in limbo, like they're lost. Like they then will just define what their vision is for the company, or what is important to them in terms of the behaviors. So yeah, I just think that it really is critical. It was a total blind spot for me. And I'm really, I would highly encourage anybody who might be watching this to think about their core values and their vision.
Super cool, Matt. I love that, the core values, and I love the practice of that, implementing that in your team meetings on a regular basis to kind of just iterate that and have that stick at home for your employees. It's not only having them, but it's like the implementation and understanding of those values. So really cool to hear that the company you're building. Before we get into a few fire round questions, time we're close on time. I just want to hear what are some of your visions and future of Stucco and the company, and maybe potential next steps, and then we'll kind of get into the hot seat.
So our vision is we really just want to. We've got a lot of really great offers. I mean, we've kind of covered them. Virtual staging for agents. We've got a brokerage offer to where a real estate brokerage can sign up their entire agents. We just rolled out. We got the reseller offer for photographers and stagers. We got this retail offer for these home goods companies that want to show their items in all these photos that we're staging their properties. So we're in a really great space in terms of product market fit. Our immediate next step is to raise so that we can really make sure that everybody's aware of what we have to offer, to really ramp up, sales, revenue, and also our internal team to support all that demand. We also really want to automate our design processes as much as possible so that we can speed up the fulfillment of the orders, and also, that results in more profitability. Efficiency is one of our big core values at Stucco as well, trying to utilize tech as much as we can to automate our processes, so that we generate results as fast as possible for our customers. So that's kind of our immediate next step, is to raise money so that we can really ramp up sales, our team, and then also automate our design processes. Down the road, I really want to release an API so that when you go on Zillow or Redfin or Trulia, not only are you looking at those photos of the properties, but you're able to see all the products in those properties if we virtually stage them. So this idea of being able to shop for homes, but shop from homes too, I think is really, really exciting.
Exciting roadmap ahead, Matt. So I'm excited to kind of see these things play out, and I'm really excited for the success you're having and the continual growth on that. So quick fun round, quick answers, no pressure here, just a quick hot seat, a fire round we have. So are you ready for question one?
Well, for those watching, I don't know what question one is, but yeah, let's go. I'm ready.
What's your favorite book recommendation or something you read recently, and why?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, the book that I read most recently is on nutrition, actually, and it's what is it called? It's like The Power of Healing Foods or something like that. And I'm just what's top of mind for me is that I'm able to maintain my health and wellness, and I'm able to be a good leader. So if I don't put good into myself, both in terms of thoughts and food, and then I don't get good output, or I'm not setting a good example. So I think it was called The Power of Healing Foods or something like that that I just completed, and that's just top of mind.
I mean, I think it's a great recommendation too. I think we always talk about the business side of things, right? We don't talk about the mental health and taking care of yourself as a founder. So I think I love that perspective on that book.
Yeah, and working from home, I feel like, man, it's a whole different ball game when I work from home. When I left home, I packed up, I had what I had to take, and it was it. I ain't had no other choices. When I'm sitting at home, like, man, am I gonna eat that broccoli, or am I going to go here and get me a piece of cake, or something like that? But yeah.
All right.
Totally.
Next question. Maybe what's the best piece of advice or that you've been given or something that you kind of live by?
There's a solution to every problem. It's a quote that my mom told me at a really young age, and I never forget that quote. There's a solution to every problem. In fact, there are endless solutions to every problem. I used to think there's just one solution to a problem, and so I was always on the hunt for the perfect answer to the question. But the truth is, as I get older, I realize that there are actually an infinite number of ways to solve each problem, even if it doesn't seem like there's one answer. So yeah, that's probably the quote that I think of most often, or piece of advice.
Shout out to all the moms. I know they always have the best advice, and I know I live by that, so I love that. All right, so going to the next question, if you had to birth the ultimate entrepreneur, what two people you pair up together?
Oh man, this is like founder dating. Oh man, that's a tough one. I would probably go with Steve Jobs and like Gandhi or something like that. Now, although Steve Jobs kind of had that, but Steve Jobs had so much fire, and he was so like super driven, and that's probably why he had some success. But I'd want to pair him up with somebody who just took a little bit of the edge off and was just like brought a little bit more kindness to him, because I think he obviously had creative genius, but I think that it'd be nice to dilute Steve a little bit, but maybe that would result in less outcome or less output. I don't know. But yeah, I realize those are two guys, so I'm thinking about like traits, not But
I'm actually reading his was biography by Walter Isaacson right now, like The Job. So I'm like getting into his head and his psyche right now. It's kind of crazy that you mentioned all of the like Gandhi-esque practices that he kind of followed, throughout his life. It's kind of like, yeah, he was a lightweight Gandhi himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna have to think about the female, because I mean, there's so many wonderful female entrepreneurs out there. I don't mean to not give a plug there, but yeah, there's just two people that came to mind there in terms of kind of character traits.
Love it. No, love it. So last one, and this is kind of a subjective question, but like, what do you believe the secret sauce to making unicorns are?
I've never made a unicorn, so I don't know what it is. I guess if I knew, we'd be one. One secret sauce is certainly fundraising. I mean, you gotta, in order to be a unicorn, there's never been a unicorn without a lot of capital. And there's got to be a lot of really good people involved. and it's got to be scalable to be a unicorn, right? So there's got to be a tech component in there. There have been a lot of so-called unicorns that have been, there's really not, like the unit economics aren't even really great there. It's just a lot of hype. So I kind of wish that unicorns got less celebration, because I know there are a lot of people that make a lot of money as a result of it, but yeah, there are a lot of other great ways to build a wonderful business and a wonderful life that don't entail becoming involved in a unicorn or creating one. So I don't know if I'm a part of a unicorn, maybe we'll have to record another session of NetworkNChill. I can share some advice. If you guys know, let me know.
I'm gonna throw one out there for Matt, because since Vote 2020, Matt has been the data god. So I'm gonna say you can't become a unicorn without the data.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ricky. I'll just say thank you. I appreciate that.
Man, I love the perspective, Matt. I love your thoughts, and I love what you're building over at Stucco. Me and Ricky really appreciate you taking some time today and really letting us know your insights and what you're building. We are super excited for your success, and so we just want to say thank you and wish you much luck on your journey.
Thanks,
man,
guys.
definitely, man. Shout out to my cohort member, Vote 2020, and man, I just want to keep going, keep growing, and keep making moves.
All right, peace.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
I enjoy having kind of
more diverse, and then becoming grateful to be kind of at the cusp.
And I had like this 65-year-old.
I put in time.